One of the hardest parts of wedding planning is picking your venue, and here's how I did it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name's Lindsay, aka SwishWilly, and I talk about all things Disney. So if you're into that sort of thing, please make sure you hit subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Today, we are talking about how we chose our wedding venue at Disney World. If you don't already know this, yes, we got married at Disney World October 1st of last year. It was supposed to be September 29th. However, the hurricane had much different ideas for us. You want to hear more about that? I did make a video and I'll link that in the description box below. And let's just get into it. We had several postponements for this wedding because of the way the world was. So we all know what happened, and things shut down, and it was just a whole big hoopla. People couldn't travel, people were scared to travel, so a lot had changed over our entire planning process. Now I'm going to preface this with what my dream was when I was in high school and into my adulthood. In high school is when I figured out that you could do a Walt Disney World wedding, which I was ecstatic about because who wouldn't want that? And the number one location for me at that time was the Great Movie Ride, which alas, we can no longer do as that ride no longer exists. But it was actually really cool because you could have your reception in the gangster scene, in the Western scene, and heck, even in Munchkin Land. I thought that would be really cool because who the heck doesn't want to be married in an attraction? That's so cool. But alas, those dreams came crashing down when the ride went down for refurbishment and never came back as the Great Movie Ride. So there's that. Another option I looked at as high school Lindsay was outside of Rock and Roller Coaster, because at the time that was my favorite attraction, and it's just cool. Having a big electric guitar back there, super rad. So that's also an option, still is an option. But yeah, so the high school Lindsay. Then of course, there's the outside of Tower of Terror, outside the store, which is the courtyard area, and also the beautiful scenery of Sunset Boulevard. So that is Lindsay's dream in a nutshell from high school to adulthood. And now let's move on to reality. Now, while we were planning, we were looking at all the different venues, and Disney weddings are not cheap to begin with, and it can be a little bit stressful, a little bit confusing, and a whole lot of thinking and being realistic in terms of what you can afford and how you can afford it. So for us, we pretty much ruled out a park wedding. Now, the first ceremony location that we were like, you know what, we can put this down on lock, is the croquet lawn at the boardwalk. So if you don't know where the croquet lawn is, you've probably only seen it if you walked behind the boardwalk on the way from Epcot to Hollywood Studios. So if you know where Atlantic Dance Hall is, if you go towards the Swan and Dolphin and hang a left, it's going to be on your left-hand side. Now, I loved this location because it was fairly private, pretty quiet, and it was just pretty unique in my opinion. Now, we locked that one down. That was where the ceremony was going to be, for sure. So we thought. Then what we were going to do, we were going to take our guests and go over to Atlantic Dance Hall. Atlantic Dance Hall, if you don't know this one, it is a beautiful nightclub venue. Lots of dance parties being held. It's super Art Deco, stunning. If you don't know me, I'm a huge fan of Art Deco. So that was a great venue. So when we went and did the look of it, we're like, you know what? These are our locations. So we booked those. Those were our locations. Then we had to do a quick postponement shortly after deciding what we wanted to do because we had some family stuff going on, and luckily Disney is great and allows for postponements. Usually only one, but we'll get to that. Yeah, so we ended up postponing, and while we were postponed, I started having these strange epiphanies. And this is what happens when you overthink and analyze your situations. So for me, I started thinking about the croquet lawn, and all of a sudden, I realized the entire thing is grass. Not that I didn't realize that before, but when I really thought about it, I started panicking because if I were to wear high heels, they're going to sink into the grass. Then I started thinking, oh my God, it's grass. My dress is going to be white. I'm going to have grass stains galore on the bottom of the gown. So there was that. So I went to Ron and I said, hey, I am second guessing this location. And because we had postponed, it was fine because it was no longer reserved for us, so we were okay. Then I start panicking about Atlantic Dance Hall. Now, why would I panic about Atlantic Dance Hall? It's beautiful, it's tall, it's grand. That's exactly why I was panicking, because it has such high ceilings, and at the time, because we had also done the postponement, we weren't sure what we were going to look like in terms of guest count, and I started worrying that the guest count would be so low that having it in Atlantic Dance Hall, the room would just look really bare. Because of the lack of people, I figured I would have to go more elaborate on the decor to really fill the room, seeing as the ceilings were so tall and it was so grand. So I said, that's not gonna help us financially, because we all know that the biggest thing in a cost of a wedding is usually your decor and florals. So that's when we're like, you know what, let's put the X-nay on that one. And once we're ready to talk to our planner again, we'll decide on a new location. So our second discussion point, once we started to talk to the planner again, was that we were now looking at the Yacht Club Wedding Gazebo, which is beautiful, which is in a great location. It's tucked in between the resort, kind of like this. Beautiful, beautiful, and you have a great view of the lake and the boardwalk behind you. So I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. So we picked that one, and then we were like, well, what are we going to do for the reception? Because I personally don't like any of the ballroom options at any Disney resort. I find that for myself, again, this is for myself, I find them stale. In my opinion, I can get married in a hotel ballroom anywhere. Why I would want to do that at Disney is beyond me. If you have a Disney wedding, I'm one of those firm believers that you kind of have to get the full Disney experience. And to me, a hotel ballroom just doesn't do that. Now we're like, let's explore an option of going into the park. So because we wanted a Christmas time wedding, well, at least I did, Ron just kind of went with it. I was looking at the American Adventure Rotunda, because if you haven't seen it before, it's absolutely stunning at Christmas. They have the beautiful garland bunting all around the room, and it's just beautiful. So there's one less thing of decor that I had to worry about the finance for. So having a rental fee on the American Adventure Rotunda could potentially be feasible. Now, the only thing that I was like, I don't know if I want this in the wedding, was not that there's anything wrong with this. Don't get me wrong, okay? I'm prefacing this. There's nothing wrong with this. It just didn't suit what kind of I wanted or visualized for the wedding, were the quotes that are around the American Adventure, the American history quotes. So for me, it's my wedding, not an American history event. Again, I am not saying it's bad if you have this at your wedding. It just was not my thing. And the only real way to not have those there is to do some pipe and drape. And pipe and drape ain't cheap, folks. It is so expensive. So that was my worry. When I had that worry, I was like, you know what, Lindsay, stop overthinking. Let's wait for the planner to come back. So we gave those venues to the planner. Our planner came back and said, sorry, what's happening is Epcot is not allowing any weddings for November and December to happen in American Adventure. Okay, fine. So that took that one off the table. So now we're like, okay, back to square one. Let's see where else we'd like to go. We also really wanted a nighttime wedding. There's a lot of the daytime weddings and they're perfectly nice. It just wasn't for us. Let me touch on that one. We were also looking at the Canada Pavilion, so by the waterfall area. Now, there were two reasons why we chose not to do it there. One, the wedding has to be like super early in the morning, and I was not about to ask people to do that. Also, Ron is not a morning person. He would have been very, very upset with me if I was adamant about that time. So the second reason was, again, because we weren't 100% sure on our guest count. We didn't want to commit to a location that had a very limited amount of people, because we both have larger families. So it would just be our immediate family for that location, because it is such a limited capacity, and we wanted to make sure we could also have our friends around as well. So that's why we didn't do that one. Another thing was that I feel like everybody would have laughed at me being a Canadian going to Disney for my wedding just to get married at the Canada Pavilion. So there's that. But it is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Okay, so let's circle back around now that we took out American Adventure. Now we're back to square one with the reception. So again, we are at the yacht club with the gazebo. So when we were looking into it, we're like, what can be around here that's not Atlantic Dance Hall, things that we already took out. So then we started looking around, what's around here that's not Atlantic Dance Hall and is not a resort ballroom. So I did my research, and turns out you could have your reception at the Yacht Club Marina. So I'm like, well, this is perfect. Everyone can go from the gazebo to the Yacht Club Marina. Then I got the brilliant idea, from there, we can bring our guests to Epcot in France so we can have a bit of a park thing just for a little dessert party and fireworks. So that's what we had locked down. So we're like, okay, submit that off to the planner. So now we officially had the gazebo and the marina. Our planner comes back and says we can do all three of those venues. Fantastic. So then the planning starts going, and then the worst thing happened. You know what took over the world? Everything got shut down, locked down, nobody was traveling, so we had to postpone yet again. That being said, I told myself that I was not going to make my brain move more than it needed to, and I was just gonna stay at these locations. Did that happen? No. We had another change. So I was going through the finances and everything like that, and I was very adamant as well that we have a Hollywood Studios portrait session. Now, if you know, these portrait sessions are not cheap. They're in the thousands of dollars to go get your wedding pictures done at a park. You also have to get up super early in the morning because these pictures have to be done before the park opens. Again, Ron was not happy about that, but he said, if that's what you want, that's what we will do. Bless his heart. So I started looking at the finances, and we did get the quote back, and it was pretty heavy. We also were told by Disney that we may need to cut our guest count down because of all of the things that are going on, because of the chaos in the world and social distancing and everything like that. So we ended up having to dwindle down our guest list quite a lot. Let me get back on track. So yes, looking through the finances, we had to adjust the guest count and all this stuff, and it was still really heavy considering what everybody was going through because of the world and the state of the world. So I just started playing around with numbers, as I do. Then I had the brilliant idea. So there were a couple of factors here. One, I no longer wanted to wait, and I was like, you know what, let's just get married in September instead of December, because at this point I was tired of waiting. We had 2 postponements. Not my jam. I was done. So we decided on September. I know it's only a couple months difference, but it made the difference. So then I realized, because the wedding is going to be in September now, the yacht club outdoors at 5 o'clock is still going to be really hot. It's hurricane season. Everything could happen in September. So then I start panicking and going, okay, what the heck do? I don't like the indoor venues. I also don't want my guests to overheat, but I don't want an early morning wedding. So Lindsay has another epiphany. I can get married at Hollywood Studios after the park closes. The venue would really only open up to us around 10:30 or 11 at night, which means the sun's down and the temperature is typically cooler. Now, again, I had to think finances, because there's a rental fee when you go into the park, but there is no rental fee when you get married at a resort. So that I had to take into account. Then I realized, if I get married at Hollywood Studios, I don't need a portrait session at Hollywood Studios. So I took that cost out, I scrapped that, and I put it actually against the rental fee. So really, we only were spending a little bit extra on that. Then I look into the finances again and say, well, what the heck am I going to do, because floral's expensive? Well, if you get married at Hollywood Studios on Sunset Boulevard, it's already decorated for you. There is so much going on that I needed very minimal decor to make this work. So now I basically cut the floral budget in less than half. So there's that. Ceremony outside Tower of Terror. Again, I don't need decor. It's outside Tower of Terror. There is enough to look at, and it's such a beautiful building on its own. So then I really start crunching numbers. Because again, I didn't want an early morning wedding. So late night it was. The only question was, is this going to be way too late for our guests? Now, we had a lot of Florida locals because Ron is from Florida, and we had a lot of people traveling from Canada and other parts of the United States. Now, we figured most of the people that are coming in from Canada and other parts of the States are going to make a vacation out of this. So maybe timing won't matter too much to them. I talked to my parents and they're like, well, it is kind of late, but if that's what you need to do, I'm like, well, that's what I want to do. And so I did it. So we had finally hit that time frame where we can actually just start talking about the wedding again. Submit these things to the wedding planner, and our planner is laughing at us because we have changed venues so many times. There's a very stark difference going from the yacht club at around 5 o'clock and everything's done by 10:30 to everything starts at 10:30 and we're in the park. She said, hey, I think this is available. We can try and get this done. We ran the numbers, and for us, it was cheaper. How this happened, I don't know, but we saved money by going to a late night in park. So mind-blowing, I know. So that's how everything happened. It all kind of aligned and we went full circle, and I ended up getting married in my high school and adulthood dream locations at Hollywood Studios. It's still hard to believe that it happened because we got Sunset Boulevard and the Tower of Terror courtyard all to ourselves at nighttime with all the beautiful lights and everything. It was just baffling. Like, it's mind-blowing that this happened. You can tell by my face I was a happy little girl over here. So that is how we chose our wedding venues. A lot of people have a whole lot of different reasons. Some people want the early morning thing because, let's get real, you save a lot of money by having a breakfast brunch type wedding. So if you have early risers in your whole grouping of people, awesome. We don't. Our people are party people, so it is what it is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this brought a little bit of insight into venues. I hope to be adding on to this series and hopefully breaking down venues for you. So if there's anything you want to see regarding like menu options or anything like that, or the menu I chose and how I got to that point, let me know in the comments below and I will gladly start doing that for you. I'm really looking forward to making more videos about my experience with Disney fairy tale weddings, which was nothing but great experiences, just FYI. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Thanks again for watching and have an awesome day.